Welcome back. So today we have no idea what we're looking for. We are not going to go out and look for anything in particular. We're just going to see what we can find, maybe look for some tracks or signs of any animals that we're walking around and take it from there. So come along with us and see what we find. This is one of the areas we wanted to check because of the water being here. Things like impala, and even things like elephants, buffalo, as you can see here, some hippos, they're all attracted to the water because it's so dry elsewhere in the delta. You can see how these hippos have been in this waterhole for quite a while, and actually from the wind and the sun, the mud on the top of their faces has actually started to dry that very white colour. It's quite synonymous with the sand here in the Okavango Delta. You can even see in this buffalo how its skin is actually coated in layers of mud as well. So you'll probably find these buffalo might even hang around this waterhole most of the day, and not only for water to drink but also for the water to lie in and to wallow in, because that'll help to cool them down during the midday heat. But look at how nervous this impala is. Can you see how it keeps inspecting the water, it's checking, it keeps walking around the edge. So it doesn't stop at one place for too long. And one reason might be that it wants to scan its surroundings. Another reason might be that it's worried about things like crocodiles being in the water. And so it doesn't want to get too comfortable. And it actually looks like there's quite a few impala on the outskirts of this waterhole as well, making use of some of the shady patches as it starts to get hot. Places like this are not just oases for mammals, but also for bird species. And it looks like there's two different species here. So the one that's hopping up on the right-hand side is the red-eyed dove, and then there's some ring-necked doves as well. Quite honestly, I considered waterholes like this for hours on end. And it's just because you never know what's going to come down. There could be any number of animals coming to drink here throughout the day. But for now, before it gets too hot, I think we're going to continue on our way. goodness, everybody, I did not have time to explain. We had to rush because some of the other guides had called in on the radio that there were lions attacking a buffalo, and we've just got here to see the lions on top of the buffalo. Now, I do have to warn you, this might get quite gruesome, and this can last quite a long time. Oh. So do you see how this lion is actually going from the back of the buffalo? Buffaloes are incredibly strong creatures. And if you look at how sharp those horns are, you can imagine why those lions would not want to go from the front. A horn to the belly or even to the shoulder could mean the end of a lion. Oh, they've got it down, they've got it down. Oh, goodness. That's the end of the buffalo. So there's also a very large male lion here. It looks like he's just hanging back. He's waited until the rest of the pride has taken down the buffalo. And you'll probably find that as they have finally killed it, that's when he's going to come in and he's going to chase them off to try and get his fill. Oh, look, there's some more buffalo coming. Look at those buffalo in the background. So they may have heard the cries of this buffalo, and now they've actually come to investigate and maybe even see if they can help, but I think it's too late. However, we might be in for quite an interesting interaction if they get closer. Oh, look at the buffalo running in. Look at them running in. They are stampeding towards these lions. Now they're still a little bit far. And we also just need to make sure that we are not in the way. Especially if they decide to run at these lions. It's quite interesting to me that this male lion is not really interested in eating. But it does seem like they've got quite full bellies. So maybe it's just a case of him having eaten quite a bit from their last meal. And so now he doesn't feel the need to dominate over this carcass and push the others out. And so he's letting them feed as much as they can. And I suppose because there's so much food going around, he doesn't feel the need to be aggressive about it. He knows there's going to be leftovers. So as soon as these guys are done, he can come in and eat his fill without using as much energy chasing them off. Look at how these buffalo are almost circling the lions. They're trying to decide, is it even worth coming in here? Is it safe for them? Because they also don't want to lose their lives. Look at how they're watching. And how they're coming forward, they're smelling, they're listening, they're trying to figure out, is it okay for them to come in here? Is it worth them coming in here, or are they also going to put their lives at risk? And that's not something that they can afford to do. Oh my word, everybody. Who would have thought we would have come out today and seen this scene on the open grassy plains of the Okavango Delta? And look at how they just stopped and watching. They realize now it's too late. There's no way that they can come and save this other buffalo. Now, you'll find these lions will be very protective over this carcass, not only from each other, but also from any other predators or scavengers that would have been in the area. So things like jackals, maybe even hyenas, And the biggest thing, especially as it gets hotter during the day, will be vultures. Vultures will be using the thermals to fly over these areas, and being so out in the open, these lions really don't have a chance of hiding this carcass from any of those scavengers. And so by this afternoon, maybe there might be 1 or 2 vultures, maybe a marabou stork or 2 lurking around, but I think by tomorrow we might see quite a flurry of other scavengers coming through here, maybe tormenting the lions, maybe not, maybe towards the evening when it's cooler, especially things like hyenas. If there's a lot of them around, they may try and come in and steal what they can, but there's quite a few lions here, so unless it's a huge clan of hyenas, 1 or 2 I don't think is really going to stand a chance against all of these lions. Oh, listen to that sound. I mean, these buffalo are still standing by and watching. There's actually one buffalo that's gone off to the right. And it almost seems like he's trying to see if he can find a way to chase these lions off, but it doesn't look like he's even found an opportunity. Look at all the blood on this lion's face. But they're also fighting each other for every scrap of meat that they can get. So although they took this buffalo down together, they're in no way going to be friendly towards one another. They're going to go into a mode where it's almost a feeding frenzy, so they're going to start fighting over every scrap of meat that they can get, because they don't know when their next meal will be. And it looks like the rest of the buffalo have decided it's time to get moving. There's nothing they can do for this buffalo that the lions have taken down. And so it's more worth their energy to look for some shade and maybe look for some water for the heat of the day. Look at how this young male lion is looking to see if he can get into another soft piece of meat somewhere. Maybe not so happy with where he was initially feeding and now looking for another spot. This lioness doesn't seem to have as much blood on her though. And it might simply be because she looked like she was feeding mainly from the back of the buffalo. So not so much from the back legs or the stomach like the others. Look at how these lions are getting their faces right inside that buffalo. But also where they've killed this buffalo, you can imagine it's going to get very hot during the day. Oh, here comes the male. Oh, he's actually moving away from the carcass. Look at that. So it almost looks like he's deciding whether to go in and feed or not, now that the rest of the pride has done all the work. But he might also just be patrolling to see what's going on around him. You might also find that maybe he's looking for some shade, because it is starting to get quite hot out here, and there's a little patch of shade behind us. So you might go flop over there until he's ready to feed. Oh, scent marking. Can you see how this lion is actually using the side of its mouth while it's feeding? So it's not using its front teeth, it's actually using the teeth on the side. And that's because those teeth are much sharper, they're more blade-like. So they can cut through skin and meat a lot more easily. And now do you see how it's swapped to its front teeth as it pulls? So now that it's used those side teeth to almost cut a piece away, now it's starting to pull that off with its front teeth. Oof. She was not happy with that other lioness. And can you hear that very heavy, heavy breathing? That's actually the lions almost arguing over what piece they want. Maybe two are wanting part of the same muscle. And so that breathing is half growling, half kind of almost a bit of an argument, if you can call it that. Look at this lioness trying to climb over the top of the other lions. She's trying to get in there, but it's just not working. And if you can imagine, these lions could have been fighting this buffalo for a very long time before we got here, or before anyone got here. Especially a buffalo of this size. Often it'll take lions hours before they can actually take down a buffalo. And so they're not only tired from fighting each other and from pulling down that buffalo, but they could also be tired from hours and hours of chasing this buffalo around and trying to keep themselves safe in the process. As I mentioned earlier, just a little nick from one of those horns, and that could be the end of the lion. So one of the lionesses, in the process of all the fighting and everything going on around this buffalo, had actually disappeared towards the tree line, and it looks like she's on her way back. Slowly but surely, she's got quite a long way to go.
So it looks like most of these lions are still content with feeding, but there are a couple of them that have started moving off towards the shade. And in fact, here comes one of the young males now, and so this could be entertaining. You'll quite often find out here in the Delta that because it is so open and it is so dry and hot this time of year, that a lot of the animals look for shade. They don't always find the best shade, or at least big patches of it anyway. And so I guess a vehicle in the middle of the open floodplain, it casts enough of a shadow for one lion at least.
He's lying in the shade. Can you see how they're not dragging this buffalo anywhere? Even though there's quite a few lions, you'll find that because this buffalo is so heavy, they won't be able to drag it away and out of the sun. So this buffalo is going to sit here for the rest of today. And the lions will probably move off every now and then, come back. There'll more than likely be at least 1 or 2 lions at the buffalo all the time. protecting it from things like jackals and vultures as well. But they'll take turns, and while some of them are protecting the buffalo, the others will end up in the shade somewhere close by where they can rest out the heat of the day. Some of the lions have started moving off. The big male and one of the females is lying in the shade, completely flat. You can barely see him from here. He looks like a pile of sand. One of the young males has gone off, it looks like, towards where that other lioness had come from, maybe to get some water, maybe to look for some shade. And the other young male is still lying in the shade of our vehicle. But we are going to leave these lions be, and we're going to carefully try and remove ourselves from the sighting and come back a little bit later and see what becomes of this buffalo.